Hello, so today we are going to be talking about one of the more esoteric music theory concepts, and that is the church mode. And to a lot of people, this scares people off in terms of music theory, but I promise you it's not that bad. So let's just go ahead and get started. I would recommend that you take some notes, whatever pops out in this video that you'd like, or you can rewatch this video and get it that way. So we're just going to start from the very beginning. As you can see on the screen, I have some letters written. So basically there are 7 different church modes. So just to start, we have Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian. Okay, so this is where I would definitely recommend to take some notes because this won't pop up on the screen. So I'm going to give you a second. Make sure you have a piece of notebook paper or some staff paper, if that's your jam, and a writing utensil. Okay, great. So Ionian is just the major scale. So if we're in C and we have a C major scale, that's C Ionian. If we're in D and we have a D major scale, that's D Ionian. If we're in A flat and it's an A flat major scale, guess what? It's A flat Ionian. So that's really easy. So I would write on your paper Ionian, and in parentheses I would put nothing altered in a major key. Nothing altered in a major key. And you see that there's some stars and some hearts there. I'll clarify those later, but don't worry about them for now, okay? So next we have Dorian mode, which all that means is that the 6th scale degree is sharped. Now, don't let that confuse you. That does not mean that the 6th scale degree is automatically a sharp note. So it's not like C sharp or B sharp or A sharp. It just means that the note that's supposed to be in the key is raised a half step. So if I say sharp whatever or flat whatever, that just means you're taking the note that's originally in that key signature, which I'll explain later, and then you alter it based off of those modifications. I hope that makes sense. So in Dorian, you have a sharp 6th scale degree. Moving on, we have Phrygian. All that means is that the 2nd scale degree is flattened. So let's say we're in C minor, okay? So in the original key of C minor, we have C and then D natural. That now becomes C and D flat. So you have a half step in between that first note and that second note. That's Phrygian. Next, we have Lydian, and all that means is that the 4th scale degree is raised. So if I have C as my base, and we're looking at the key, so C, D, E, F in C major, but now that F becomes F sharp. So you're raising that. And if you notice, from the base C to that altered note, you now have a tritone. So there's that little piece of information for you. That's the Lydian mode. Next, we have the Mixolydian mode. So we're taking the Lydian mode and we're mixing it up. So all that means is that the 7th scale degree is flattened. So flat 7. This is used common in a lot of popular music, as in pop music, a lot of contemporary choral pieces. So if you notice that you have like a te, solfege syllable, and you're looking at that, it could mean you're in Mixolydian mode. So for example, if we are in G major, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp now becomes F natural. So instead of a half step between T and Do, you now have a whole step between Te and Do. Alrighty, so that's Mixolydian mode. Next, we have Aeolian mode, and all that is natural minor. Yippee, nothing's changed. So in parentheses, I would put natural minor scale, nothing is changed. Natural minor scale, nothing is changed. Yahoo! Last but not least, we have Locrian, which is based off of the 7th scale degree. This is one of the more weird ones in my opinion. So all that means is that, let's say we are in the key of B minor, okay? So diatonically, which is just a fancy word for in the key, we have B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G, A, and B in the natural minor. Because B minor's key signature is based off of what major key? D major, that's correct. Ding, 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 you win. So now if we are in B Locrian, okay, Our second scale degree, that C sharp, now becomes a C natural. So notice we have that half step again. Also, that means the F sharp that we have, our 5, now becomes F natural. Okay, so now our B minor scale becomes B, C natural, D, E, F natural, G, A, and B. Okay? Alrighty, so you can see that I have a couple of different symbols on the screen. Looks like we're in kindergarten. So if I have a blue heart next to something, all that means is that those church modes are major-like. So what does that mean? It sounds like we are in a major key. Okay, so if we are in Ionian, that is a major key. It's just the major key signature. So if we are in C major, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Okay, that's C Ionian. Lydian and Mixolydian also sound major. So if you want to go back to the psychological things of what makes something sound major and what makes it sound minor, if I hear a scale and it sounds happy, major-like, okay? If it sounds weird and funky and kind of minor-ish-like, that's what these stars are. So the hearts are major-like, the stars are minor-like. So in your notes, you can write major-like, minor-like, or you can make a key like I did. This will definitely help you when we start doing some examples. So make sure you have this locked in your brain. This is something you're going to have to memorize. It's not something you can really just sit there and think, oh, well, I guess if you think about it, it's no. I would memorize it. You're going to go a lot faster. So you can make flashcards and say which church modes are major-like, whatever the heck that you like to do. But I definitely recommend memorizing these as soon as you can. Okay? Alrighty, moving on. I love mnemonics and acronyms and all the silly ways to remember things. So, a way that actually Miss Owen taught me how to remember the church modes is the following. I, don't, P, like, Mike, and Larry. I don't P like Mike and Larry. And you can interpret that in any way you want. So, that's how I remember Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian. People make songs to it. People just memorize it because they don't like this silly way. But this helped me on the AP exam, believe it or not. So I memorized that little acronym. And plus, how are you going to get that out of your brain? I know I won't. Alrighty, so let's do an example. So, as you can see, we have a scale that starts on what pitch center? Everyone take a guess. D, that's correct. So honestly, if you have a piece of staff paper nearby, I would take that out and I would write this scale that I have written down as well as these 3 questions. These 3 questions pretty much help me figure out what mode we're in. Now, you might be a different learner than I am. So you might just say, okay, so it looks like this and it's based off of C major and blah, blah, blah. You can do it that way, but I think this way is much faster. Okay? Alrighty, so we have a scale that starts on D and ends on D. So our center, which all that means is what is do, all right? So our center is going to be D. All right, so now the question is, do we have a D major scale or a D minor scale? And this is where memorizing the key signatures is so incredibly crucial. So in D major, we have how many sharps? I'll wait. Raising in the air. On 3, 1, 2, 3. Woo! Yeah, that's right. We've got 2 sharps in D major. So looking at this scale, do we have 2 sharps in front of us? No, we do not. Alrighty, so it's definitely not major. So I cross that guy out. So I assume, okay, so we have some form of a D minor scale, okay? To double check yourself, let's think about it. What is the key of D minor? That's right, it's 1 flat. That's just something you have to memorize. It's just like F major, it's 1 flat. So looking at this scale, do we have a B flat in here somewhere? No, we do not. So now we say, okay, well, if B flat was there, what scale degree is that? So that is scale degree 6. So first of all, let's answer this question. We are in a minor-ish key. Alrighty, so scale degree 6 is altered, right? So we need B flat. and they give us B natural. So are we taking B flat and moving it up a half step to make it B natural, or are we taking B flat and moving it down a half step to make it B natural? We're going up a half step. Very good. So that means our 6th scale degree is raised. Now remember, don't let that sharp fool you. Just because we say sharp 6 does not mean you'll write a scale with B sharp in it. That's not correct. Okay? You're taking whatever's diatonic. Remember, that's the fancy word for being in the key signature. And we are raising that scale degree by a half step. So now we say, okay, let's go back to our handy dandy little chart. Which one of the minor-like church modes has a raised 6th scale degree? Dorian, that's correct. So we always write the pitch center first. So I'll put D and then our church mode. So Dorian. And then we did it. Yahoo! All right, let's do a couple more just for some practice. So in front of me, I have a different kind of a scale with a brand new pitch center. So take a second and write down what the pitch center is. And if you feel like you can work ahead with those 3 questions, what's the pitch center? Is it major like or minor like? What's altered? And then you can deduct the answer from that. You can go ahead and do it. Okie doke. So our pitch center is what? F. That's correct. So I'm just going to write it over to the side. All right, so that's our center. Then we say, okay, is it F major or F minor? So let's think F minor first, okay? So what is our key signature for F minor? Very good. It's 4 flats. We have B, E, A, and D. And you can remember that because that is the relative minor of A flat major, okay? That's something else you'll have to memorize. Go ahead and do it. I promise you this will get a lot faster once you have those key signatures memorized, okay? So that would mean that we have 4 flats. Do we have that in front of us? We have no flats at all, so no, it is definitely not F minor like. Let's think about F major, okay? So what's the key signature for F major? That's right, it's 1 flat, and that's B flat, similar to our last one. So I'm going to look at my scale and see what scale degree that is. So first of all, we can deduct that it's major-like. Solely because if it looked minor-like, that 3rd would be lowered. So A flat instead of A natural, and we don't have that. So it's definitely major-like. Now let's think about what scale degree is altered. So we would have a B flat, but now we have a B natural, okay? So what scale degree is that? 4. So are we taking B flat and lowering it by a half step, or are we taking B flat and raising it by a half step? Very good, we're raising it by a half step. So that means it's a sharp 4. So what can you deduct from that? F is our center, it's major-like, and it has a sharp 4 scale degree. So what kind of scale do you think we have? Very good, it is F Lydian. Awesome work, you guys are so smart. Alrighty, so let's do one more. So in front of us, we have a scale, so go ahead and write that down. And we're gonna ask ourselves, what does this scale center off of? So what's Do? And in this case, it is D, very good. Okie dokie, so now we ask ourselves, does this look like D major or D minor? So let's think about that, just big picture. D major, we have what? Do we have sharps or flats in our key signature? Sharps, we have 2 sharps, okay? So that's our major, we have 2 sharps, okay? For minor, do we have sharps or flats? We have 1 flat, very good. So looking at this, do we have any sharps at all? No, we do not. Now, you can't always deduct that it's minor because it doesn't have the necessary qualifications, like if it has flats or sharps. So don't always base it off of that, but in this case, it does work. The real key to figure out if something is major-like or minor-like is looking at that 3rd scale degree. So in D major, we have D, E, F sharp. In D minor, we have D, E, F. So in front of us, we have a lowered 3rd, So it's definitely a minor key. So this is minor-like. And it's like I said, the faster you can memorize those key signatures, the better off you're going to be. Okie dokie. So now we think about the key of D minor, which we just answered 2 questions ago. So what's the key of D minor since you guys are pros now? 1 flat. Very good. So it looks like we have more than 1 flat. So this is actually diatonic. That guy's good to go. But I see that in the key of D minor, we have 1 flat. So let's look at the notes that are altered. And in this case, you actually have accidentals, so you can actually deduce what ones are altered. Not always the case, but I made it easy for you. You're welcome. So it looks like we have 2 notes that are altered. So what scale degrees are those? It looks like E natural has become E flat, so that's scale degree 2. And our A natural in D minor has now become A flat, so that's scale degree 5. So now we ask ourselves, do we take E natural and raise it to become E flat, or do we take our E natural and lower it to become E flat? We lower it. Very good. So that means we have a flat 2 or a lowered 2. It's just shorthand. If it's better for you to write raised or lowered, do it. Now looking at our A, do we take A natural and raise it to get A flat, or do we take our A natural and lower it to get A flat? Very good. We lower it. So we have a flat 2 and a flat 5, or a lowered 2 and a lowered 5. So now we look at our handy dandy chart and we say, okay, it's a minor-like key. So that gives us 4 options: Aeolian, Dorian, Phrygian, and Locrian. And then we say, okay, well, flat 2 is in which one of these? Phrygian and Locrian. But we also have a flat 5. So that can only mean one church mode is in front of us, and that is Locrian. Very good. So this is going to become, or be, D Locrian. Okay? Alrighty, so that's pretty much all I have for you. If you have any questions about this method, please let me know. I'd be happy to answer them. I love this stuff. Biggest pieces of advice is number 1, memorize your key signatures. Make your flashcards. I don't care how you do it. Quizlet by hand. Do it. Memorize it. Number 2, memorize that acronym. It's just going to help you in the long run. Number 3, memorize which ones are major-like and which ones are minor-like. If you are an aural learner, I would recommend sitting at the piano and try playing some of these. You can look some scales up online and just play through them. And if they sound major-like or minor-like, go ahead and just make a mental note of that and recognize which ones are major and which ones are minor. Or if you're like me, I just memorize which ones I'm supposed to know, and then I use that and I move on. So that is the church modes in a nutshell. If you have any questions, like I said, please let me know. I'd be happy to answer any of them. Okay. So that is essentially it for all of the church modes. If you have any questions, like I said, do not hesitate to let me know. I love answering this kind of stuff. And yeah, thank you so much for letting me jump into your class today. Hope you have an amazing day, and see you real soon. Bye.